I thought I'd spend a few minutes on here today. Like usual, I was killing time by looking at the internet. And of course, the biggest news around the country is the East Coast due to the two hurricanes that have come through. And, there's the whole stories that, FEMA's been here and helped, and there's stories of they were here but left, and there's other stories that said, no, they haven't got here yet. So I guess they're hitting on all three cylinders in this case. I did look at a couple of channels that had the helicopters up and kind of showed the devastation around the mountains, especially up where the worst part was up around North Carolina. And there was a little story on there. Let's see, it was from, let me look here. Place called Bat Cave, North Carolina, I believe. And one of the people there had said that he thought he had an appointment with FEMA to come look at his house. And I guess they were on their way there. And there was a sign that said, road closed. So they turned around and went back to wherever they came from, wherever that was. And, of course, he got a hold of them somehow. And they said, well, there's a road sign up there that says closed, and we're not allowed to go around those signs. Okay. Luckily, some of the local people had been going around the signs so they could get some help. Actually, apparently FEMA wasn't able to help them. They were waiting, I guess, for a road to be built or something. I don't know. But they were able to get apparently some staples and things like that up there in Bat Cave. I guess if they get a road built sometime the next week or two or maybe 6 months, that they can get their forms filled out. You got to have the form. The biggest complaint was that a lot of them put in the forms and they were turned down for whatever reason. And so, of course, FEMA has to say, well, the only reasons would be it was either filled out incorrectly or it was in a county that wasn't qualified for help, or, they name off a few things because they have to have an excuse, right? One guy got on there and he said, and he showed on he had his camera out there, and he showed his place. Mudslide got his house, and it was full of mud on the inside. And it looked like it covered his well. It looked like it had almost stopped on his property. He had a flat area where he's got his buildings built on. And I forget what else, but anyway, his well was covered up in something else. Or maybe it was septic system, I think. And if he ever did get equipment in there to help out, he was going to have to make sure he marked it out well so they didn't crush the systems. Then he'd really be messed up. And he put in for FEMA assistance. He was completely turned down. So he really didn't know why. He just said that he was turned down, but he needed help anyway. He said that unless somebody come up and helped him get things going, he was homeless. He said he might have to get a knapsack on and just start walking South America, because he said he certainly wasn't going to be able to live there without shelter. What he's saying is he's going to have to go where there's decent weather, because he won't make it up there in the wintertime. It gets kind of cold. Matter of fact, a month from now, unless he's got pretty warm clothes on, he's not going to make it through the night. That shows you how things are going. I realize that some of the bigger areas are moving along at a good pace and that they're getting power back on and the streets are getting cleaned up. It doesn't help people back in the hollers, way back up in there where the roads are washed out and the bridges are gone and stuff like that. But the guys in the small helicopters said that they were, wherever they could find a flat spot where they could get in there with the choppers, they were doing their best to get whatever they could. Apparently Musk had has donated some equipment to help them in communication-wise. And so they're dropping those in different towns. They're trying to find the different fire stations that they can drop them off to. You know, this disaster out there on the East Coast was a perfect place for all these politicians to prove their worth by putting them back on their feet as quick as they could. And they failed miserably. Quite frankly. You know, I realize it's always been and probably always will be your neighbor's going to be your best help if they're able to. But when everybody is washed out at the same time, it makes it tough. It just does. Yeah, but you're talking about some pretty tough people back in them hills. They've had to survive on a little bit of nothing for generations, and they're going to do it. I mean, my stepmother comes from North Carolina. She's a tough old bird, and she's past mid-90s. It's still clicking away. My grandmother on my dad's side, she was from, I don't know if it's Tennessee or Kentucky, somewhere there in the Appalachian area there, way back. And she was pretty tough. And right up till she passed away, I mean, she was one that she'd still go out in the woods and look for stuff. There's a lot of people like that. My wife's grandmother, she was 99 years old when she passed away. She traveled the country. Her husband was a carpenter, you know, Barb's grandfather. And they've been out every place that I've been, including down there in Louisiana. They walked some of the same areas I did and crossed the bridges and stuff like that. And my great-great-grandfather lived in Louisiana down there and even wrote a book about it. So, you know, the places that we all travel and see and understand the culture, we feel bad when something like this comes along. We know what they're going through family stories and how people always had to depend on each other. You know, everybody's always had somewhat of a mistrust of the government. After all, our country was formed on mistrust of England itself because of the taxes that were imposed on them that shouldn't have been. And we're in situations like that now. The government likes to deny anything that is shows a negative report on them, but they don't get off their duff and come out here and prove anybody wrong for some reason. They just get up there to the media and say, they're so full of it and they're causing us more harm than good. But the squeaky wheel gets oil. And so those people that yell the loudest will get the attention. And at first it's probably negative media, but then comes some positive government help. And then later on they'll get even somehow. I'm talking about the government get even with you that speaks out too loudly. I've been known to lose a few of my, well, I get ghosted once in a while on here if I talk too much about the government. They don't see the light of day. There's no laws that say they have to show it, so, you know. Oh, what else is out there? You tell me, are you getting taken care of out there during this time of need? You know, if our true leaders out there wanted to and they decided that they wanted to get the combat engineers or the Seabees out there, they could build some pretty quick bridges and temporary roads and all kinds of stuff. One of the things was, though, they said that a lot of the roads are getting taken care of. One of the first things the locals did was, if they had the gas and saws, they went out there and started clearing the trees off the roads. You know, they're all interested in getting their power back on, get roads opened up. They need food, water. They just need help. And one of the major things you're going to need here very quickly are bulldozers and backhoes and things that can make a difference, things that can get in there and put back what was slid off the side of that mountain. Or mountains, I should say, the mountain range, all up and down the Appalachian. mountain range and valleys and crooks and everything else. Somebody the other day said something about creeks and cricks, that the creek was the right pronunciation. I'd always been raised up to, I always called her a crick down there, and I guess, I don't know what, they tell me that a crick is something wrong with the neck. You have a crick in the neck. But creek and crick, as far as I know, is the same thing. We all of us called it the same thing. I don't know what the difference is. Maybe you all can tell me, but I sure don't. I guess there's a lot of things that we could talk about, and it seems like the negative things get the most attention. And so I'm sure that the negative reports out there are getting more attention than the positive. But I can tell you this, the most positive ones were where neighbor was helping neighbor. And, I wish that was that way right now around the whole United States, and actually maybe even around the world. Can you imagine what it'd be like if your neighbor come over and said, "How can I help you today? What can I do for you?" What a pleasant greeting that would be. Because maybe it's nothing more than, "Hey, I'm having trouble flipping my mattress and I need help." And some of you don't know what that means, but it means sometimes your mattress will get a little depression in it, and you have to flip it over rather than buy a new one, because if you flip it over, then it's going to last that much longer. You flip it and turn it, and you have a different place to sleep on, so you don't get this, like a crick in the neck, a crick in the back. Play with words, I guess, huh? Oh yeah. I found out I've removed a couple of things off my channel. A couple of them had to do with senility. Apparently my senior years are showing on me, and maybe my communication isn't quite as plain as if probably when I was in my 20s or 30s or 40s or somewhere before now. But you've got a president out there that was, he's a year or two older than I am, and you got one coming up that's a couple years younger than I am. So I'm caught in between, I guess. And although I look old, I don't necessarily feel that old. My mental agility seems to be somewhat it's still working, if you will. And yes, I remember when I was a young kid, and I remember my grandparents and miss them just as much as anybody that's in their 30s or 40s, that have lost a parent or grandparent. It always seems like it was just yesterday when something like that happens. It's devastating, and you never forget those moments, and nor the emptiness in your heart when you've lost somebody like that. And it really hurts when you've lost your partner, your life partner. Back in our day, our partners usually were partners for life. They appreciated each other. I seen a person on the internet the other day that said that their significant other was wrong 99% of the time. They argue, and he made a statement out of it like he knew it all. And I thought, wow, that significant other of his really puts up with a lot. But then, two people seem to find comfort in one being kind of brutal and the other one being the receiver of it. Maybe they were made for each other, one being the one that doesn't mind it when they're stepped on or crapped on or talked about. It's just one of those things. And the other one loves to berate. And if they berate their significant other, I wonder what they do to the people that are around them. Well, now that I think about it, thinking back about it, I think that person does say stuff about people that are around them. Matter of fact, just about everybody. Matter of fact, neighbors too. Let me see. Oh yeah, he talked about somebody named Gail that he didn't agree with about certain things. Dumping garbage or something. I think he said something about dumping garbage. It wasn't his way of doing things. I don't. There was it was quite a conversation. But senility setting in, sometimes you can't get every single word quite correct. But it seems to me that was somebody. Somebody said that this particular person even let him put cameras on their property to watch another person. Does that make sense to you out there? Well, if it does, you probably know what I was talking about. Enough said about that subject. For the most part, even in that little town, when the two storms come in, the neighbors there were helping out each other just as well as the people in the Appalachian mountain areas. And it's appreciative when people like that come out, because in your small areas like that, chances are you've got cousins and aunts and uncles, as well as parents and grandparents living within shouting distance a lot of times. And it might be several generations living in those areas that I'm talking about. You got to kind of watch this mic. I forgot and left it on, and the battery might be run down. Yeah, I hate to say too much about those areas, because right now we need more cooperation than we do fighting. If we could take some of that brotherhood that they're experiencing within the Appalachian areas amongst the neighbors, where they're showing how to be good citizens with each other. And one guy said, he said, they're busy getting all those roads fixed up. He said, now, here comes the looters. And he was right. I hadn't thought about that, but when the areas open up, you get somebody coming up to pretend like they're going to be helping, and they're not really helping. They're helping themselves to what you had. And then at that time, all you can do is arm yourself with something that you can protect yourself. That's about it. Of course, if something drastic happens, you'll go to jail for it probably, but boy, in needy times, what do? How do you protect yourself? To stand the ground is okay, except you got to have enough money to afford to protect yourself after you protect yourself, if that makes sense. But that's a truism, I can tell you. It's not senility that I'm talking about. It's a truism. Yeah, there was one guy on there. He wanted to argue a few points with me, and I tried to explain to him why my opinion was the way it is, and he was just a knothead. He just wasn't going to listen. So yeah, I sent him to the deep freeze. He won't be back looking on my channel, and I've done that to a few out there because they wanted to be knotheads. I told you before, if you want an opinion, you're welcome to put it on here, but don't be a knothead about it, and don't repeat over and over. I'll give you my opinion, you give me yours, and we'll walk away from it and agree to disagree. But I don't want to hear something that is completely way off base. Come on. Use your head a little bit. Don't get nasty. You don't need to. Oh, boy. Everybody seems to be walking around with a chip on their shoulder. Say some little thing and they're pissed off at you forever. There's a poor old guy up there that they like to pick on, and not old, he's a young kid. According to me, he's a young kid. Poor old Super Dave. People love to take shots at him because he's very sensitive. He wears his heart on his sleeve, and he tries to be as very honest and as neutral as he can. And when he gives his opinion, somebody's always trying to slap him down or push him off by his side to make him feel like he's in a corner all by himself. Well, Dave, you're not. I'll back you up for having your opinion, and I know you're going to have things that you don't like that I talk about, and there's probably going to be things that you talk about I won't particularly care for, but man, I tell you what, I appreciate you're out there giving your opinion and walking the walk, okay? I think you're an honest person, and you're a fresh person that needs to be out there. And so don't let anybody out there shut you up. Just get on there and do your thing out there. You're sure welcome out there on the airways for sure. I got nailed the other day about half a dozen times that I should stay away from two leaves in a pod. They're hateful and all that. But I'd like to tell you guys that have this opinion, at least give them credit for going out and they get the real documentation and bring it to the talk. And they bring in real witnesses. And if you at least give it a little bit of a listen, in most places they're going to let you give your side. And they do look at both sides at almost everything they talk about. They just don't like it when they're talked to nasty. And there have been some people out there that were extremely derogatory and negative. And quite frankly, I was taught not to treat females that way or talk about them that way. So I guess the people that do that, I don't have a very good opinion of them. And yeah, there's quite a few out there that are that way. And it's too bad they have to be that way. And you realize that when you talk about somebody's girlfriend or wife that way, the best thing you can do is never meet the husband on the street. I'm just telling you, it wouldn't go good for you. And it doesn't matter how tough that person is. They have things they call equalizers out there. It might be a person, place, or thing. But if you trap somebody, they come out pretty vicious. And my advice is, try to be neutral when you're addressing something like this. You don't have to use nasty names to address anybody. It won't help your cause at all. It'll make you look pretty bad. Now, if I'm talking too slow for you, just turn the speed up on down here. It'll speed right up. That way, my age, it slows my vocabulary down a little bit. You can speed it up to whatever you want. You want it to sound squeaky like Mickey Mouse? Well, you can do that too. If that fits more in with your personality, well then Mickey Mouse to you, huh? Yeah, we can all do that. And if I'm talking too fast, you can slow it down. Yeah, the same thing that speeds it up slows it down. By the way, when I was a kid, we could do that with records. I had a record player. You could play 78s or you could play 16 on there. Now, for a lot of you don't know what that is. 16, it was those great big records that slowed down that have 7 or 8 songs on it. 45s, an automatic little changer you could put on the spindle there that would let it flip, flip, flip down, and you could play record after record. It was a wonderful time back then. See, we danced instead of fighting most of the time. If we did fight, it didn't last long, and usually we got up off the ground, we were friends again. And usually we both hit the ground once or twice before the fight was over, but then we weren't trying to unlive somebody. We were just letting our feelings run a little bit too much. Today it's a little different, I guess. I don't know. I'm at the age where I just soon not get involved in those things. It didn't pay off very well then, and it certainly wouldn't pay off now, would it? Now, I get threatened every once in a while. Don't get me wrong. And like I say, the only thing you can do is try to equalize or level the ground, whatever that takes. When I was in the military, we depended on each other, and we didn't necessarily see the next guy to us as where he came from or how his speech was or necessarily about his age or any of that. We depended on that person next to us. That was going to be who we protected and who protected us. And if you looked at it that way, we'd get along a lot better out here in this country. And yeah, I get tired of hearing about the BS back and forth and all the fighting over little mini things. And yeah, I like to try to help the underdog. That's That's just a natural thing in life. Not for everybody, but because bullies still like to pick on those that are weak and defenseless or can't hold up their own, especially if there isn't too many around. And if there's a gang, if they can lead a gang, oh man, they're the king of the block then, aren't they? Yeah. Well, you get a group, a big gang together, and then you can bowl through anything. That's short for bully. Oh yeah, but most of you know who I'm talking or what I'm talking about. You've had to run up against things or people like that in your life, and some of these people talk about other people as if they're not in the room, and yet the people that hear it, that are in the room, or listening on here, they take it and they eat it right up. You take, you know what? Right now, we have this time of devastation out there all up and down the East Coast. And there's people out there that have very little. And there's a lot of people out here, there, here, everywhere, that have plenty. And they just sit back and watch it. They wouldn't like it if they were there and it happened to them and they lost everything. But they just sit back. They actually enjoy trouble. And you can see it because even in good times, they'll pick on somebody and try to break them down and make them grovel and crawl along the ground. Yeah, they call them names. Some of them are nicknames. Of course, they're derogatory in nature. You know people like that, right? They're awful people, aren't they? Not somebody you'd really want for a neighbor. Although if you're on their good side and you think everything's going well, I want you to think about all the people that have crossed their paths before their history now. Look behind them to see what's going to be ahead of them. You'll get a good idea. It's just like the old John Deere tractor running down the field, and in front of him is all this greenery, and behind it's all plowed ground. Hard to walk in, hard to get around in, until it's leveled back out again and replanted so it can get green again. But during that time, it's tearing that ground up. These people tear the ground up. They don't do any planting behind them. They gather the crop and take it home with them. You know the type. Let's see. I don't think I need to talk anymore today. I'm just hitting it a big old circle around there, hoping that some of you will wake up, help those that need it, and take some of the wisdom and put up there in that old noggin of yours. Appreciate some of the senility that I bring my way to you, because I'm giving it to you free. I don't charge a nickel. I don't charge you a nickel to be on here. Matter of fact, people out there would like to have what they call utopianism, where everybody's the same and level and they all have the same amount. What you see on here, I don't charge memberships. There's nobody above the other. You all have a chance to speak on here. It's my channel, my rules, but I make it so you can come and stay and do all those things on my channel. Others are going to charge you for that right. I don't ask you for nothing. Well, I take that back. If I ask for anything, it's for you to open your heart up and help those that need it, and do it with an open mind when you do it. Okay. With that, listen, this is, I'm going to give it oh, wait a minute, there's one more thing. Shout out to Robbie out there and Get Swamped. I hope everything is going fine and that your animals are good and safe, that the damage is going to be repairable that you've run into, the fencing is back up, that you've got some help out there to help you get things uncrated and unboxed and back in order. Hope you're getting some sleep. Hope you get the finances you need. People there, if you want to look at somebody to donate to, Get Swamped out there could use some help financially. He takes an awful lot on, and he works night and day to keep it going out there. During times like this, he gets very little sleep, if any. It's a good thing he's type A personality, so he's always bouncing. So, and Tori is over 500 subs, so the next goal is 750. Do you think Tori can get 750 subs here pretty quick? Well, she has Leatherworks out there, so she's on two Lee's in a Pod. She's filling in for Kendra quite a bit while Kendra's been taking some time off. And look her up out there. She's deserving of some more subs. She's a hard worker as well. Let's see. Of course, we don't want to forget about Lisa. Lisa's the one that keeps the thing going out there. She knows what she's doing too. She's the one that works so darn hard, trying to level the ground for a couple of people out there that needed it. Guapo, you're one of the happiest souls I know out there. Man, you got it going for you, and I'm glad. Oh yeah, Storage Legends. That's who I'm talking about. And Super Dave, Millstown Best. Just keep a stiff upper lip. Keep on going. You're doing just fine. And I do appreciate you. I know you're a good guy. Oh, I'm not sure what to think about Slug. I know he's a young guy, and he's weathered the storm where he was picked on. Let's hope that the storm doesn't flood him out. And who else out there? I could think of some that I want to mention, but today I want to be more on the positive side. So we're going to leave it at that. Psycho-Bible Rap, I hope your brother is doing okay, and my prayers go out to both of you. I hope that, I tell you the truth, anybody that can pray for you, I hope they're doing it. And I hope things look up for you a lot better. I mean that with all my heart. And with that, yeah, I hope I haven't left anybody out. If I have, I apologize. All right. Well, like I say, with that, I'm going to call it a day or afternoon.